Your story needs relatability, and relatability is created by readability. A context conveys this readability. Genres, when framed, allow you to create a context. To create a context, define which emotions you want to convey. Pick the corresponding genre, frame this genre to establish your context, and refine this context by adjusting your frame to the main themes, characters, and environment. The 6 main genres you're likely to use are regrouped in 3 categories: action-adventure, comedy and drama, and saga and horror. The most common frames you're likely to use are recorded in 3 categories as well: science fiction and fantasy, mystery, thriller and western, and war and monsters. A context will allow you to create predictability. Predictability will make your story more familiar. Familiarity will allow you to create a sense of belonging, and this belonging will generate engagement. Your stories need clarity. Clarity is delivered through a systematic approach. A 6-genre system will be enough to provide a balance between diversity and clarity. The simplicity of the system allows you to develop your story more easily, as a simple classification is designed to factor the complexity of modern story. It allows you to improvise easier. As modern stories get more complex, your stories are likely to fall into multiple genres. Therefore, 6 large categories are more likely to define your storyline than one narrow one. As target emotion is the crux of genre selection, genre and emotion will be classified between strong emotions and deep emotions. Strong emotions include anger and courage, which refer to the action genre, fear and terror, which refer to the horror genre, and excitement, which corresponds to the adventure genre. Whereas reactive emotions are more direct, deep emotions are more contemplative and develop in longer stories. They include sadness, which corresponds to drama, contemplation and pondering, which corresponds to saga, and joy and happiness, which correspond to comedy. These emotions are main fundamental emotions and can be translated into sub-emotions and variations. In the case of fear, one of variations may be anxiety if it's combined with the adventure genre. It can be angst or dread if it's combined with the drama. And it can be abomination if your storyline is full horror. Framing defines your story's borders. Frames grant the public a high degree of predictability. The familiarity brought by the frame allows you to deliver your themes, to display them, to let them unfold. Framing a story allows you to create a context, and a context enhances attachment. Here are 3 examples of framing a story in order to create a context. For context number 1, the genre selected is adventure, and the corresponding emotion is excitement. The frame selected is science fiction, which leads to the pulp context. If you intend to write an action story and your main emotion is anger, and you intend to operate in the mystery frame, the context you will create is highly likely to be the hard-boiled context. Finally, if you intend to do horror and your frame is fantasy, the result is likely to be dark fantasy. A context allows you to create immersion. Immersion grants your story predictability. Predictability is retrieved in the story through familiar symbols, and those familiar symbols will grant a sense of belonging. Immersion is the combination of 2 main factors: coherence, which is the quality factor, and consistency, which is the quantity factor. The combination of coherence and consistency form the world's cohesion. Therefore, cohesion is a retranscription of what kind of immersion you can expect from the public. A context is the essential tool in order to create a familiar storytelling. The key element of context creation is predictability. Predictability is the key element because it allows you to deliver and to predict expectations. And expectations are the main source of engagement, both from the public and the characters. You'll rely on the characters to create an attachment to your story. So tapping into the collective library is essential. Making use of an archetype system would make your writing easier and the referencement to the characters easier as well. The use of symbols when it comes to characters, environments, objects, organization will help the public to create a transposition between them and every element of the story.